At 20, she mocked every man who came for her hand in marriage. At 30, her mother dragged her from mountain vigils to beach cleansings, from prayer ministries to native doctors, all in desperate search for a husband. But the same men she once laughed at were the ones who laughed at her in return. What became of her in the end will shock you, and it will break your heart, so stay with me till the very end. My people, welcome to Folktales by Chisom, where real-life lessons are told through unforgettable stories. Stay with me till the end, because this tale will open your eyes. The busy streets of Surulere, Lagos were always buzzing. The honking of downfall buses, the shouting of traders, the aroma of roasted corn and suya mixing in the hot afternoon air. In the middle of it all lived Adara, the pride of our neighborhood. From her teenage years, Adara's beauty was the talk of Lagos. Fair-skinned, tall, with curves that made heads turn, she became the dream of many young men. When she walked down Oduelega Road, even Okada riders would slow their bikes just to stare. By the time she was 22, suitors were coming almost every weekend to her family's house in Abuja. Some were educated young men with stable jobs, others were merchants at Balogun Market, and a few were even family friends who had admired her since childhood. But Adara always had one reply: "I can't marry a man who is still hustling. My husband must already be made. I deserve a man with cars, a mansion in Lekki, and enough money to travel abroad whenever I want." One of her earliest suitors, Ifeanyi, was a young tutor at a secondary school in Yaba. He was soft-spoken and respectful. He came to her house with his modest salary, carrying gifts of bread and milk. Adara looked at him from head to toe and laughed. "You want to marry me with teacher salary? You can't even afford my wigs, let alone my future. I beg, find your level." The poor man left in shame and never to return. Another suitor, Chukudi, worked at Oyingbo Market, supplying foodstuffs to different parts of Lagos. He was humble but ambitious, with plans to expand his business. When he came, Adara refused to even serve him a drink. "A market boy, me, Adara, that every man desires, please shift." Her friends noticed how she dismissed men and tried to warn her. Ngozi whispered one evening at ShopRite Ikeja, "Ada, you have to be careful. Not every man starts rich. Some grow with their wives. Don't let price cheat you." Adara laughed loudly. "Ngozi, don't pity me. You girls can marry your horse last. As for me, I am destined for better. One day, a big man will come for me. Maybe a senator's son, or even a rich politician. Just wait and see." Her confidence was unshakable. Each time her mother, Mama Adara, tried to caution her, she would wave it away. "My daughter, a good man is better than riches. Look beyond money." Adara, "Mama, don't worry. You'll be soon living in a mansion in Lekki. Just be patient." As the months rolled into years, Adara rejected suitors one after the other. Men whispered about her beauty, but they also whispered about her pride. She didn't care. Adara to herself while staring at her reflection in the mirror. "Why should I settle? I am beautiful. My mind must match my worth." She believed time was on her side. But time in Lagos moves quickly, and while Adara was busy waiting for her rich prince, life was quietly moving past her. In Lagos, weekends were for weddings. Every Saturday, Adara's neighborhood in Surulere would buzz with music blasting from higher DJs. The streets jammed with cars decorated with ribbons, and women dressed in colorful Asoebi fabrics strutting like queens. By her mid-20s, Adara had already become a familiar face at these weddings, not as a bride, but as a bridesmaid. Her closest friend, Ngozi, was the first to marry. The ceremony took place at a rented hand hall in Yaba. Adara stood by her side, dressed in lemon green asoebi, holding the bride's bouquet and smiling for pictures. But deep in her heart, she thought, Adara thinking, Ngozi is just rushing. She married a banker who is still struggling to pay rent. Me, I will wait for my own rich man. The next year, Chiamaka, another close friend, married a civil engineer. Again, Adara wore their sleighby, this time a bright orange knit, and danced behind her friend as Fuji music blasted through the hall. The master of ceremony teased her during the reception, MC pointing out at Adara. Our beautiful Adara, always supporting her friends. Don't worry, very soon we will gather for your own wedding. The crowd cheered, clapped, and some shouted, Amen. Adara forced a smile, but quickly brushed it off, whispering to a friend. Adara smirking, I'll beg, my own wedding will be bigger than this. I will not marry until I find a man who can give me a wedding at Echo Hotel or Orienta, not this kind of small hall. Year after year, Adara's friends married off. Each time, she dressed in the latest asoebi, styled her hair at a luxury saloon in Ikeda, and strutted proudly at the weddings. She was the bridesmaid in Yaba, the chief bridesmaid in Ikwarudu, and the maid of honor at a ceremony in Victoria Island. But no matter how grand the weddings were, none matched the fantastic wedding she dreamed of in her heart. At one point, her mother confronted her after a yet another friend's wedding. My daughter, your mates are moving on. Don't you think it is time to say yes to one of the men who come? Adara rolling her eyes. Mama, those men are too small. I cannot downgrade myself. Don't worry, you will soon call me Yawobilonia. Her words made her mother's heart heavy, but she kept quiet. Soon, whispers started spreading even amongst her friends. Some of them avoided discussing marriage matters with her, afraid of a shamp down. But behind her back, they petted her. Chiamaka to Ngozi one afternoon at Relay Market. Adara is still waiting for a rich man, but Lagos is not easy. If she continues like this, time will pass her by. Ngozi sighed deeply, adjusting her baby on her back. I want her, but she refused. God help her. Still, Adara refused to bend. She looked at her mirror every morning and told herself she was too beautiful to settle for less. At weddings, men admired her, but when they approached her, she would dismiss them quickly. Adara to a young man businessman at a wedding in Ikeja. You drive a Corolla, my dear. My future husband must drive a Range Rover. Please, step aside. The man laughed and walked away, shaking his head. Word spread among men that Adara was too proud and many stopped approaching her at all. By the time Adara was 29, she had won asoebi for more than 15 weddings, always smiling for the camera, always dancing in the bridal train. She had become a symbol of Lagos wedding culture, the fine lady who never lacked a new dress but had no ring on her finger. But as she blew out the candles on her 30th birthday cake at a restaurant in Victoria Island, surrounded by friends and colleagues, a strange silence filled her heart. The laughter and noise of Lagos nightlife could not drown the question echoing her soul. When will it be my turn? The day Adara turned 30, Lagos felt louder than ever. From the endless traffic in Ojuelegba to the street hawkers shouting, pure water, gala, granite. The city moved on as if nothing had changed. But for Adara, everything had changed. She celebrated her birthday quietly at a small lounge in Yaba. But deep inside, her joy was heavy. She had expected by now to be married to a wealthy man, driving her own jeep through Lekki Phase 1, living in luxury. Instead, she was still in her mother's house in Surulere with nothing but fine clothes and Instagram pictures. And Lagos began to whisper. At Tejusho Market, where she went to buy fabric one Saturday, two women selling wrappers muttered loudly as she passed. See Adara, or this fine girl, still no husband. Now she they always reject men. Now time done the humble arm. Adara heard every word. Her chest burned, but she kept walking, pretending not to care. Yet, tears pricked her eyes. Another day, she ran into Ifeanyi, the teacher she had once mocked. He was now married, with two children tugging at his hands as they left a supermarket in Surulere. Ah, Adara, long time, how are you? I'm fine, just fine. Ifeanyi patting his daughter's head. God is good. Life moves fast, doesn't it? She nodded quickly, but inside her heart screamed. That would have been her life. Children, family, peace. Worst of all was the mocking from men. At a party in Ikeja, a group of guys laughed openly as she walked past in her elegant gown. Now she weighed the form for us back then. Now she go accept anything. Time don't humble am. One even called out loudly, "Adara, are you ready to be second wife now? I get space." The whole group burst into laughter. Adara's face flushed with shame. She rushed out of the hall before her tears could fall. Her mother noticed her daughter's growing sadness. One night, as they sat in their Surulere flat with NEPA light flickering, Mama Adara touched her hand gently. "My daughter, don't mind what people say. God's time is the best." Adara sobbing, "Mama, but what if God's time has passed me by? What if I rejected the men he sent?" Her mother's eyes grew moist, but she had no answer. From then on, every step Adara took in Lagos felt heavier. The gossip followed her in markets, in churches, even at weddings. Every comment, every laugh, every side eye felt like a dagger to her soul. The same city that once celebrated her beauty was now mocking her singleness. And Adara began to wonder, is this the price of my pride? After Adara's 30th birthday, her mother could no longer stay calm. In Lagos, people always had something to say, and the whispers about Adara had become too loud. Relatives began to call, friends sent messages, and even neighbors poked their noses into her matter. Neighbor at the compound tap, "Mama Ada, your daughter is still single. Don't worry, try Mountain of Fire. They are good with marriage prayers." Her mother smiled faintly, but the shame weighed heavily on her heart. That night, she sat Adara down in their small sitting room in Surulere. The fan squeaked above them as she spoke softly but firmly. "My daughter, we cannot fold our hands and watch time pass. From this week, we are going to seek deliverance. There must be something blocking your marriage." Adara said tiredly, "Mama, I'm just unlucky. Maybe my time hasn't come." "No, Adara, we must fight spiritually." And so the journey began. Every Wednesday, Mama Ada took Adara to a popular church in Ojodubeja. The pastor, sweating as he shouted into the microphone, pointed at her in front of the whole congregation. "Young woman, the spirit of delay is holding your marriage. We must break it tonight." He poured anointing oil on her head until it dripped into her eyes. Adara knelt there, embarrassed as the crowd shouted, "Fire! Fire!" Another weekend, they went to Mountain of Fire in Yaba for deliverance. Adara was told to fast for 7 days and pray at midnight. She obeyed, her knees bruised from hours of prayer, but nothing changed. At midnight, Mama Ada dragged her to a prayer mountain on the outskirts of Lagos. They climbed in the darkness, holding candles, the sound of people crying and shouting filling the night. Adara prayed, tears streaming down her face. Adara whispered, "God, please, I am ready now. Just give me a husband. I will never be proud again." But silence answered her. One Sunday evening, they traveled to Elegushi Beach in Lekki. There, a so-called prophetess told them to bring white candles, coconut water and salt. As the waves crashed behind them, Adara was told to wash her face and hands with the water for cleansing. People stared as she stood by the shore, her expensive wrapper wet with salt water. She felt exposed, humiliated. Adara thought, from being the jewel of Surulere to bathing at the beach in the name of cleansing, is this my life now? The last straw came when one of her aunts secretly took them to a native doctor in Ikorodu. The old man with red cloth tied round his waist shook carries and chanted incantations.
Your enemies have locked your marriage in the spirit world. Take this powder, mix it with palm oil, and lick it every morning. In 3 months, your husband will come." Adara looked at her mother in shock. Adara cried softly. "Mama, is this what I have become? From rejecting good men to drinking charms for marriage?" But her mother only squeezed her hand, desperation in her eyes. Weeks turned to months. After all the vigils, prayers, fasting, cleansings, and charms, nothing happened. No husband came. Instead, the whispers grew louder. In Lagos buses, on the streets of Yaba, in the markets of Tejuosun, people mocked her. Some laughed openly, others pitied her. Adara began to feel like a prisoner, trapped by time, mocked by society, abandoned by the same beauty she once boasted of. By the time Adara turned 33, Lagos had become a mirror of her shame. The same city that once bowed to her beauty now laughed at her pain. At Tejuosun market, women selling tomatoes gossiped loudly whenever she walked past. "Fine face, no husband, all that shakara don't expire." Trader 2, laughing. "She used to reject men like she was a queen. Now nobody even dey look her." The laughter followed Adara like a shadow. She pretended not to hear, but tears filled her eyes. One Saturday, she attended the wedding of a junior colleague from her office in Victoria Island. She dressed in a shimmering asoebi lace, hoping to blend in. But midway through the ceremony, the MC cracked a cruel joke. MC, pointing at her. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's clap for our sister Adara. She has supported more brides in Lagos than anybody. When will we gather for her own wedding, oh?" The hall exploded with laughter. Some clapped, others shouted, "Yes, oh!" Adara's face turned red. She excused herself, ran to the bathroom, and sobbed silently. Looking at her reflection in the mirror, she whispered bitterly, "Adara, is marriage a punishment? Why can't people leave me alone?" One evening, while buying suya at Ojuelegba, Adara ran into Chukwudi, the humble trader she had once mocked. He was now wealthy, driving a Prado Jeep, his wife and children waiting inside the car. He smiled politely, but his words stung like poison. "Adara, long time. You still never settled down? Ha, Lagos men must be blind." His laughter echoed as he entered his car and drove away. Adara stood frozen, her suya forgotten. Even the area boys in her neighborhood had started mocking her. Boy, shouting as she passed, "Auntie Ada, how market? Husband still dey find you?" Their laughter pierced the night. She rushed inside her gate, her heart heavy with shame. At home, the silence became unbearable. Nights in Surulere were filled with the sound of generators humming and neighbors chatting happily with their families. Adara lay on her bed, scrolling through Instagram where her old friends posted pictures of their children, vacations, and anniversaries. She would close her phone and cry into her pillow. Her mother tried to comfort her, but even Mama Ada had grown weary. Mama Ada sighed when she sighed. "My daughter, I don't know what else to do. Maybe it's your destiny." Adara wept, she said, "Mama, don't say that. Please don't say that." But deep down, Adara feared her mother was right. By the end of her 33rd year, Adara no longer enjoyed going out. She avoided weddings, birthdays, and even church programs. She dreaded the questions, the side eyes, the whispers. She became a prisoner in her own house, trapped not by walls, but by loneliness and regret. And for the first time in her life, she admitted silently, "Maybe I have wasted my youth. Maybe I would die alone."
At 34, Adara's pride had been broken into pieces. The queen of Surulere had become a shadow of herself. The loneliness, the gossip, the endless prayers, nothing had changed her story. Her heart burned with regret, and in desperation, she began to look back at the men she once mocked. One Saturday afternoon, Adara dressed modestly and visited Ifanyi, the teacher she had once laughed at. He now lived in a 2-bedroom flat in Yaba with his wife and 3 children. When Adara arrived, the children ran around giggling. Ifeanyi's wife welcomed her warmly, serving jollof rice and soft drinks. Adara forced a smile, but as she watched the family laugh together, her eyes filled with tears. Later, she pulled Ifeanyi aside. Adara softly, "Ifeanyi, I'm sorry. I should have accepted you back then. You were a good man." Ifeanyi, kindly but firmly, "Adara, I hold no grudge. But you see my wife, she stood with me when I had nothing. She deserves the life we live now. I can't trade her for anything." Adara nodded, her throat tight. She left his home that evening, the sound of his children's laughter haunting her as she walked back to her car. Weeks later, she reached out to Chukwudi, the trader from Oningbo Market. When they met, Adara was stunned. Chukwudi was now a successful businessman, owning several shops and even supplying goods to supermarkets across Lagos. He had built a house in Lekki and drove a sleek black SUV. Adara swallowed her pride and spoke. "Adara, I was foolish. You loved me once, but I was blind. Please, is there still a chance?" Chukwudi, sighing deeply. "Adara, you are every man's dream, but you looked down on us. Now, time has changed everything. My wife supported me when I had nothing. She deserves everything I have now." His words hit her like a hammer. She smiled faintly, masking the storm inside her, then walked away with her heart shattered. That night, Adara sat on her bed in Surulere, clutching old pictures of herself in her 20s. She remembered the countless suitors she mocked, the arrogant words she spoke, the laughter she poured on their faces. Adara, weeping to herself, "God, if I could turn back time, I would marry even the simplest of them. But they are gone, all gone." In her desperation, she reached out to even smaller men, a widower with 4 children, an old family friend who had once proposed. But each time she was rejected. Widower, shaking his head, "Adara, I respect you, but you are not the woman I need now. I need peace, not regret." Even men she once considered beneath her now consider her too late. By the time she turned 36, Adara was drowning in bitterness. Every night, she scrolled through Instagram, seeing her old friends flaunt their husbands, children, and vacations. She avoided reunions, weddings, and church gatherings because the mocking eyes were too much. She began to whisper to herself at night. "Adara, softly, almost mad. I was once the jewel of Surulere. Men used to beg for my love. Where did it all go? How did I lose everything?" Her tears soaked her pillow as NEPA light flickered in the background. The once proud Adara had become a woman broken by time, haunted by choices she could never reverse. At 37, Adara was a shadow of the woman she once was. Her once radiant beauty had faded. Her skin, once glowing, was now tired from endless fasting and sleepless nights. The sparkle in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by sadness. She no longer went out. Weddings became her worst nightmare, so she avoided them completely. Even church, which had once been her refuge, became a place of pain. Each time the pastor prayed for single women, the congregation would glance at her, some whispering behind their hands. In the streets of Surulere, younger women mocked her openly. Some pointed and giggled when she passed, others whispered cruelly, "Is that not Adara? Fine girl, 37 years old, no husband, no children. What a waste." Her heart bled with shame. Her mother, weary but still desperate, tried one last time. She dragged Adara to yet another prayer house in Mushin, where the prophet declared, "Your marriage has been buried in the spirit. We must dig it out."
They prayed all night, shouting until their throats ached, but nothing happened. Adara returned home with swollen eyes and a broken spirit. By then, even Mama Ada began to lose hope. One evening, she sat beside her daughter in their dimly lit sitting room. Mama Ada sighing. "My daughter, I have done everything I can. Maybe it is not meant to be." Adara whispering, tears rolling. "Mama, I was foolish. I wasted my youth. I mocked the men who truly loved me. Now, I am alone." On a rainy night in July, Adara locked herself in her room. She brought out the white wedding gown she had bought years ago, the one she always kept hidden in her box, waiting for her dream wedding. She wore it slowly, the lace clinging to her weary frame. She sat on her bed, staring at herself in the cracked mirror. Adara whispered to herself, "So this is how it ends. No husband, no children, just regrets." Clutching the veil in her hands, she lay on her bed and wept until sleep carried her away. By morning, Mama Ada knocked on her door. No answer. She knocked again, panic rising. Finally, she pushed the door open and froze. Adara lay still on the bed, her white gown soaked with tears, the veil clenched tightly in her hands. Her chest did not rise. Her eyes were closed forever. Mama Ada screamed, her voice piercing the quiet streets of Surulere. Neighbors rushed in, wailing. "Ah, so Adara is gone. The jewel of Surulere has died in loneliness." The news spread quickly. At her burial, people shook their heads, whispering, "She wasted her youth. She mocked good men. See how pride destroyed her." Adara's story became a warning to many young women in Lagos. Mothers used it to advise their daughters. Don't let pride destroy your destiny. A good man is better than waiting endlessly for riches. Her life became a folk tale, one of beauty, pride, wasted time, and bitter regret. Moral lessons. Pride destroys opportunities. Time lost can never be regained. A humble heart finds peace, but a proud heart finds sorrow. Marriage is not built on wealth alone, but on love and companionship.